Hey everybody, welcome to Slightly Modified YouTube channel. My name is Andrew Garza. They call me 4runner on Instagram. And this is my 2jz 4runner. So we've been working on this build for a while. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of been done for a while now. I'm a little slow on the editing. But this is my 4runner. I don't want to spoil too much because I have a few videos to go after this. So I'm just gonna get right into this engine. The reason why we're making this video is because we are running this naturally aspirated SC300 2jzgte non-VVTI engine, and we're running it on a 2jzgte non-VVTI turbo ECU. It works pretty good actually. The only thing is the only thing that's different between these motors, obviously, other than it actually being a GTE and the coolant comes out over here instead of over here, is the compression. The compression's a little higher on these motors, which can be good, but also can be bad. So it works. I mean, it works, but I have one turbo on here instead of two. Still works. The reason why I'm making this video is because I wanted to show you guys what it took to run this engine on a 2jzgte ECU, and I'm gonna go over a few things right now. I pretty much rebuilt this whole harness in this video. So pretty much all these wires go down. It runs under the intake manifold all the way to the back of the motor, over the bell housing, goes way down there out of the heat's way, and goes into the car. So I was able to wire that really cleanly, but the main things you have to do to get this to run on a GTE ECU, there's a few things. Number one, we turned a MAF sensor into a MAP sensor. So a MAP sensor on these engines pretty much includes 5 wires, right? So there's 3 is like the pressure wires or the airflow wires, and then 2 are the temperature wires. So all we did was we split those 5 wires up. We turned our 3 into a MAP, and then the IAT, the intake air, is actually threaded into the bottom of the intake manifold, and there's 2 wires, right? So it's supply and a return. Basically, it's like they run off of 5-volt signals. One of the things you have to do on the ECU is you have to move a pin around on the ECU to read a MAF signal, to read a MAP signal. So that's easy, just move a pin around, I'll show you that. And then the IAT is pretty simple. I just threaded an IAT into the bottom of the manifold, or you can put a bung right here in your intercooler piping, whatever you want to do. Another thing is, you see there's 2 O2s here. One of them is the ECU O2 and the other one is my wideband O2, so that way I can see what's going on with the air fuels and the engine. Now this engine comes with a 1-wire shielded O2. Will it work with the GTE ECU? Yes, but I heard you're going to foul a lot of plugs because your startup is going to be terrible when the engine's cold, and you're going to foul a lot of plugs out. But will it work? I heard it will. 4 wires, pretty simple. Basically you're just adding a power and a ground. So that one really isn't that hard. I'll show you how to do that. And then one of the other big things is we got rid of the distributor cap with all the spark plug wires that go everywhere, and we are running coil over plug. It's called batch firing or wasted spark, whatever you want to call it. So I'll show you how to wire that. It's pretty simple, but the reason why you still need this is because this carries your cam and your crank sensor, those 4 wires. The reason why you need this, if you're running, especially this head doesn't have a cam sensor back here. You could drill it out and get a different cam. I'm sure you can. Too much work. Down here is the crank sensor. Like I said, it's right in the side, drilled in the side of the oil pump. This one doesn't have it. So this is it. This is what we got here. It gives us our signals. The ECU is happy. Okay. Now let's go inside. I have my ECU stashed under the carpet. Now, could I have done this better? Yeah, I still didn't wrap up all the wiring because I want to do AC. Ah, snap, I might need to take this whole piece off. Let's see. Ah, cheated. Okay, cool. So the ECU is hidden. I left this wire out because this is the important wire. This is the TE1 wire. I go over that in the video too. This is the wire you have to touch the ground to set your base timing. So usually what I do is I'll just tie it to that ground wire or something, or I'll tie it somewhere. And then I could hook up a timing gun and set my timing. So if I fold this back, I'm gonna do it very carefully because it took a long time to get all this under here. So here is my ECU and my igniter. I also rewired the igniter to be inside of the car, not the engine bay. And so far everything's looking pretty good here. These are all of my wires that I left right here because these are my wires that I'm gonna hook AC up to. As you see, everything's still labeled. So I'm gonna hook those up. And then here is where the engine meets the car, these two plugs. So there's still a couple wires lying around over here that I need to button up, but that is pretty much it on the wiring side. So I have a whiteboard in my trailer. I wrote down a few things, that way you guys can visually see what's going on, and then I'll show you a couple diagrams, and then we're gonna start this video. So I know this is a lot of talking, but these are a couple things that I wanted to explain to make this video make that much more sense to someone who is not really familiar with wiring, and A, they're watching it for their enjoyment, to learn, or B, they're actually just trying to do it. So this is why I have to make this little section of the intro before we start the video, because I edited it and I kind of just was like on my own schedule, and I explained a couple things, but not the way I wanted to properly, so bear with me. Okay, I wrote all this down on the whiteboard in my trailer, as you can see, and the freaking markers weren't cooperating, but I did the best I could. So let's go over this. A few things, okay? Let's go over this first. 2jz 4runner NAT/TT mod. So of course we have the 2jzgte non-VVTI SC300 motor. This is the motor with the strongest rods that's not a GTE. So I get this one, plus it had a rear sump for my application. And then you need 2jzgte non-VVTI ECU, JDM ECU, or a super ECU. Wiring could be a little different for a super ECU. This video is focused around the JDM ECU. 450cc injectors. Now, I believe stock on the JDM motor, the GTE motor, are 440s. I got 450s. I forgot the brand. There's a few brands you can get, like Oside, Tiger. The brand I got, I forgot what it was. But any injectors that will fit in your rail, basically. Up next, we have a 1jz, 2jz GTE non-VVTI map sensor. So I got the one off of a 1jz non-VVTI, works fine. Up next we got the 1jz or 2jz VVTI. Most importantly, it could be a 1jz GTE, 2jz GE, 2jz GTE. As long as it's a VVTI, the batch fire, coil packs, and igniter will work. There's different types of igniters. Anyone, just grab anyone off of VVTI, anyone you can find with a connector, because you're gonna need the connector on it too. Up next, 4-wire O2 sensor. So you can get this off of a 1jz or 2jz VVTI. I got mine off of an IS300 because it's a thread-in. The ones on the 1jz and I believe the 2jz GTE motors, I believe they're bolt-in. So I got the one off of an IS300. There's like 3 or 4 on an IS300. Yeah, you're gonna need that. Also, you're gonna need the plug. I had a spare GTE harness that was chopped to hell, and I stole the plug off of that. But you could probably get a generic one on the internet. Up next, what do we got? Bosch GM JZ intake air temperature. So I used a GM. It was from Haltech. I got it because it's 1/8 NPT, and I threaded it right into my intake manifold. So I was able to do that. That's pretty much what you need. Now, the wiring part of things. I went ahead. This is the non-VVTI ECU. The VVTI is going to look different, okay? Non-VVTI, the SC300, basically, JZ80 Supra, the MK4 Supra is like this too. Maybe some of the GS, I don't know. So there's 2 plugs. One plug's a smaller plug on the right, and then there's another bigger plug, right? So the smaller plug clips in, the bigger plug has a screw in it, and you have to unscrew it to pull the plug out, right? So here's how, if you're looking at the back of the plug, here's how it looks. Top right, we're reading from top right to left, top to bottom. So it'd be 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40. That's a 40 pin connector. This one is an 80 pin. Now it goes all the way from right to left. So 1 to 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30. So basically 1 through 20, 21 through 40, 41 through 60, and 61 through 80. So remember that when you're going to pin some stuff, okay? Up next, batch fire, wasted spark. This might confuse some people, okay? What you're doing is the GTE ECU has 6 different pins. So it gives each individual cylinder spark. That's how the GTE works. 1 coil pack per cylinder. This one, we're using 1 coil pack per 2 cylinders. Now let me show you the reason why it works. As you see, I've drawn lines from cylinder 1 to 6, drawn lines from cylinder 2 to cylinder 5, and 3 to 4. The reason why is because the stroke is the same. When cylinder 1's at the top, cylinder 6 at the top. When cylinder 2's at the top, cylinder 5's at the top, 3 and 4. Basically, they all match each other. That's why you're able to share spark. So yes, that means, so if cylinder 1's the top dead center or whatever, I don't really know the correct term, and she's ready to spark, it's gonna spark 1 and 6. But cylinder 6 is gonna be on the exhaust stroke. So even your sparking number 6, when you're really trying to spark number 1, it doesn't matter. It's just, that's why they call it wasted spark. It's because you're literally wasting the spark. So the spark plugs fire twice as much as they need to, but it's pretty effective. It works well. In my opinion, maybe you should just change your spark plugs more often, okay? So let me go over that real quick. So it's a 4-stroke engine, right? So you got your suck, your squish, your bang, and your blow, right? Sucks, it goes down, squish, it goes up, bang, it goes back down, and then blow out the exhaust goes back up. So you see these are at the same, right? So when you're coming from up to down where your bang is at, and when you're coming from down to up where your blow is at, where your exhaust valves are opening to exit all the gases out of the combustion chamber, you're just getting spark in both cylinders. It doesn't matter. So hopefully you guys understand that. That's very important. What I am gonna give you tips for is when you are deleting shit you don't need from this ECU, you depin those pins, save them, because you're gonna have to add pins. Because remember, the GE harness, all these are gonna be empty. So you're gonna need 3 pins you're gonna have to add. So cylinder 1 and 6 are both gonna have pins, and then you're gonna go from 2 to 1. So 1 and 6 is gonna go from 2 wires to 1 wire, and then that's gonna go all the way to your igniter. I explained that in the video pretty well. So I just wanted to explain how wasted spark works. Now I did. Now moving on. MAF sensor to MAP sensor, okay? So the MAF sensor consists of 5 wires. We got E2, THA, KS, VCC, and on the GE, it's an intake ground, okay? Intake ground is an actual intake ground. E2, I'm assuming, is a special ground. Either the grounds to the manifold, or there's a special area of grounds for sensors. So that's what that tells me. Now, when you're going to go from MAF to MAP, it's pretty simple, right? You can see the same ones. E2, VCC, you got E2, VCC, and you got KS right here, but you have PIM right here. That's why I wrote right here, if you're switching from MAF to MAP, you need to depin this KS pin out of the GE, obviously out of the GE harness, and you need to repin it to pin 62, because you want to take this reading, a PIM reading, which is a MAP reading. So that's all you have to do is depin that one and then push it right in the other one. There should be like a little plug in the harness. You pull the plug out, slap it in there. Okay. Now you still have 5 wires. This is how you divide them. Your THA and your E2, as you can see, they're the same pins. That's pin 45, pin 45, E2 is pin 65, pin 65. And then right here, VCC is pin 41. Anyways, I split this up. You see how I drew a line? You basically take these 2 and you wire it to your intake air, and then you take these 3 and you wire it to your MAP. Now, in order to know what, like the orientation of the wires, I'm gonna bring you right on over to here real quick, okay? So let's get into, so this is a Supra harness, okay? It already has a MAP. You see how it says 2jzgte? It already has a MAP. The reason why you can tell is because your THA is separate. That's your intake air, it's separate. And then here's your MAP, these 3 pins. So you have 1 pin, 2 pin, and then you have 1, 2, 3. So remember, your E2 is gonna get shared now. You're gonna use that ground for your MAP and your intake air. So, and then you can see right here, it has pins 1, 2, and 3. That way you know where to put them. What is next? The O2 sensor, I'll go over that right now. So hopefully we got the MAP straightened out. 4-wire O2, okay? So, the single wire O2, is just that, the first one, oxygen sensor, pin 48. Now, it's very important on the GTE ECU, you make sure that this oxygen sensor, the signal wire, goes to pin 48. And then these other three are the ones we're gonna have to add. So you're gonna have to add, because now we have a GE harness, this pin's gonna be empty. So you need to put a pin in here, pin 71. This is the ECU telling the heater on the O2 sensor to turn on. So on cold starts, it heats up the O2 sensor so we get a better reading. In order to power the heater, you need to add a 12 volt switch, and that's to this pin, pin 2. So that's your heater power. And then right here, pin 4, this is your ground. It goes to chassis ground. I think I put it to intake manifold ground. I don't know if there's a difference. My O2 has always read kind of weird on cold start, but when it's warm, it runs fine. So it could mean I did something wrong here with the heater, because it runs pretty rich, but still runs fine. So now we're gonna go back over here. Here's the GTE harness. So I've been going back and forth between these two. This is not exactly the same as the SC300. I couldn't really find a good picture of the SC300. I think I have it printed out somewhere. Yeah, it's right here. This is the SC300. So as you can see right here, there's 5 wires. Here's your math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you just have to split them up just like I told you, and you have to change the pin. Remember, the PIM pin is very important. So you need to change the KS, this to PIM, okay? Now we're going over to the heater. See, here is the ECU. This is the ECU, right? So here is the pin number, 71 for the heater and 48 for the oxygen sensor. And make sure those two pins, because there's a few oxygen sensor ports in the SC300 ECU, but in this one you only want to use one. It's this one, pin 48. And then pin 71, as you can see, this is where I got the numbers from. Heater 1 is pin 1, oxygen 1 is pin 3, plus B is pin 2, and then there should be a ground there. It's not, just ground it. And then that's it. I hope that I explained this good enough. This is very long. It's going to add a lot to the video, but now you guys are familiar with how the NAT TT mod works. It's very hot in here. It's like probably over 100 degrees in here. I'm sweating my tail off. So that being said, I wanted to explain the wiring to you guys. I hope that helped. I try my best to make things very understandable. That's why I had to draw it on a whiteboard, even though I didn't have to. But for people watching, I know it can get kind of confusing. Let's just get to the video, guys. It's a pretty long video. I'm gonna make skippable points to where you can skip to wherever you want to watch, and just shoot a like, maybe subscribe if you guys like my content. So see you guys. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have to pull this sucker apart. We're gonna have to go through it, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna sling it on the motor. We're gonna find out what everything, I'm gonna label all the wires that are cut, like all the injector plugs and stuff like that, which one's the power, which one's the trigger. We'll do that. I don't know if we're gonna steal the plugs off of that harness and then recrimp them to this and then have it be like a plug and play deal, and then this just be like a little pigtail. Or I might just cut these plugs off, bam, just like that, and then we'll solder straight to it, because I don't really see any other injector being on here. Plus, this is a very common plug. It's like a EV, I don't know, 6, 7, 14, I don't know, something, but a lot of the newer style injectors have these plugs. I don't really know what I'm gonna do. Whatever looks the cleanest, that's the route I'm gonna take. We're gonna get this harness slung over. We're gonna see what wires need to be deleted, what wires need to be fixed. Obviously, we're gonna delete this because we got our new one. This is all VVTI stuff, but it will work for our non-VVTI. For example, our 4-wire O2. It's just a newer style, so it gets better reading because they're heated as well. So this one actually has a power wire, and it heats up, gives you better reading on cool starts and stuff like that. So that's that. Now let's get this slung over. We're gonna mark what we don't need. We're gonna put these on. We're gonna mark all of our links to where they need to be landed to, and that's pretty much it. Let's get to work. On this engine harness for, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 hours. I like to take my time on this stuff because, you know, if you mess up, you're going to be spending hours chasing your tail anyway. So there's a few things that I wanted to do to this harness to get it changed up to converting it to a GTE style harness. Now, as you already see, I may have went over this stuff already, but you see I pulled this VVTI coil pack harness off of an old cut up harness I had. So we're going to deal with this later, but you see I got the wires hanging here. There was an old single wire O2 I pulled out because we're not going to be using that anymore. So we got rid of that. I'll show you what I got rid of so far over there. Now, this right here, this is the idle air control valve plug. So instead of being on the throttle body like it was right here, we need to back loom this all the way down because our idle air control valve is now down here. So that's no problem. We know the wires are going to make it, right? Because they come from the main plug over there. So we'll bring all that back, and then we'll figure out whether we wanted to coil up and ditch it, or we want to cut it and reconnect it. It just depends how the wires are. Okay, none of these are shielded, so we're good. I feel confident we can cut those and splice those back together. And then what I'm working on right now is, I think I want to delete this. This is the, I don't know what you call it, the OBD connector. There's a lot of these wires that we're not going to use anymore. A lot of them go to dead ends anyways, but there's two very important wires you need to keep your eye on in here. In order to set timing on this distributor motor, since it's still a distributor motor, we could still technically set timing on it. So, you know, like rocking back and forth, so we could set our base timing. Two important wires. You got TE1 and E1. So if you look in here, the brown one that my pinky's on, that's E1. That goes all the way to your ground. And then TE1 is going to be that light green one. So when you touch those two together, it'll allow you to set your base timing. Now, do I need to keep this whole plug to do that? No. I've seen a lot of people, what they do is they just cut those two wires off and they put it on a flip switch. That way, if they need to keep on, you know, messing with their timing, they can. And plus, that'll get rid of 15 plus wires. I've been working on labeling everything over here too. But you see, the thing is, for the SC300, there's a lot of things that need to be plugged in the engine bay, these two plugs. So this plug right here does, I think, switch battery power. The thick black one is for the starter. And then over here, we see we got a bunch of stuff. Battery power, ACMG, that's for the air conditioning. That one goes to onboard diagnostics, so we're going to get rid of that one. There's a lot of main relay. All of this stuff, I think I can get rid of it all and take it all the way back to the ECU plug, because we're going to be wiring everything inside of the car, because that's where everything's at. If we need to run one wire to the engine bay, we will do that, but there's no point of having all this on the harness on the right side, because the battery in my rig and the fuse box is on the left side. So we're probably going to get rid of that just to thin up this harness. There's a few plugs we need to repair. Let's see, where's my knock sensor? Look at my knock sensor. This thing is freaking trashed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this shielding, we're going to cut it back a little bit. We're going to cut the plug wire back a little bit. We're still going to leave it sticking out like normal, but you see how long it is? We can cut this down 6 inches and not have it be too short. So we're going to do that. We're going to have to repair that. Yeah, looks like the front knock sensor wire is completely broken off too. We're gonna have to repair that. And then we got up here, these are the two temperature readings, one's for the ECU, one's for the dash. We're gonna keep those. And now the harness is halfway there. See, I've just been delooming it little by little, throwing everything I don't need on the ground. And then every day after I'm done working, I'll clean it up. So here was the single wire O2 wire. I went ahead and loomed it back, and I saw I did some weird shit right here. Kind of wide off, went this way, went to this, and then this wide off. Super confusing. But I think I got that all figured out. These go to the onboard diagnostic connector. If I'm going to get rid of that, I'm going to get rid of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going through this, making sure none of it's super important, and then we're just gonna get rid of it. We're gonna thin this out as much as we can before we go ahead and tape that back up. As you can see, you need to keep your wires somewhat organized. So look, so those wires go that way, right? And then here's where it tees off. These wires, right, are on their own separate bundle. And then it goes this way, and then this goes over the engine. So, and then this down here with the coil and stuff like that, we're gonna work on that after. We are going to be converting the igniter to a VVTI igniter. I'm just gonna keep going through it. Basically, if you find a wire you don't need, follow it all the way, make sure you don't need it, cut it, and then just pull it back through the harness. Keep it long as possible. If you don't care, then shit, you can cut it on this side, you can cut it on that side, you can pull however, but I found it easier to leave the wire as long as possible, just in case you fuck something up. You can always re-add it in the future. Pretty much everything is good to go. Everything is long enough. So if we end up putting the igniter over here, that's the reason why I didn't want to close this up yet. Because I know for sure we're going to put the O2 sensor over here, and we're going to have it come out of the firewall pretty much and go right into here. That way we're not running wires all the way around the harness. But let's explain how the VVTI coil pack conversion works. So obviously we're getting rid of the distributor. We don't need it, but we have to keep this plug because this is our cam and crank signal. If you wanted to get rid of the distributor entirely, you'd need probably a different head, or it's going to be expensive. You have to add a cam sensor, and B, you have to get a different oil pump, or you have to drill your oil pump the side of it out and put a crank sensor in there. Now, I think Suprastore or Supra World, no, I think it's Supra World. They sell adapter kits, so you could make all that possible without taking your motor apart at all. You know, you could drill right into the oil pump, get that sensor in there, and they have a trigger kit you can bolt onto here, and it will take your cam wheel and take the input from that. I don't care that much. So we're gonna leave this here. This is totally not in the way, as you can see. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna convert this from a distributor to a coil over plug. Shout out to Ollie SC300. I don't know his name, but he's the one who originated this whole, they call it the NAT TT mod. So basically you're running a twin turbo 2JZ ECU on an NAT motor. And it's all possible because he went and figured it all out. Now, it ain't rocket science, but he was very nice to figure it out and post everything in the forums and help people. He's been helping people for 10 plus years on this. He still comments on it to this day, which is crazy to me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these VVTI coil packs. As you can see, let's go over this real quick. There's 3 coil packs, right? So you only need 3 coil packs, and you can share the signals. So that's what this is, and it makes it really easy. So as you can see, the coil pack back here for number 6. Let's try to get it out. See, it's plugged into number 6, and then it's got a spark plug wire. Let me get that back in there. It's got a spark plug wire that comes forward and does number 1. Same here, we got a coil on number 2, spark plug wire goes back to number 5, and then we got a coil on number 4, and a spark plug wire comes back up to number 3. So that's how it works. So there's 6 wires. So we'll separate these out. 3 are powers, and 3 are triggers, right? So you're gonna have, right when you turn the ignition on, you're gonna have power, right? So the 3 power wires goes to the top of the clip, right? Power, power, power. And the bottom of the clip is a trigger. As you can see, these clips are trashed. I got brand new ones right here. So we're gonna do that. So don't worry about that. And we have 3 triggers, right? So coil number 2 and 5 is brown. Coil number, let's see, 1 and 6 is white, and green is 3 and 4. So 6 wires, right? So we're gonna cover this up. Here is the VVTI igniter. Here is the SC300 igniter. So the SC300 igniter has 5 pins on it. The VVTI igniter has 3, 6, 10. 10. So how are you gonna go from 5 to 10? Well, Let's figure it out right now. We're gonna do this together. So I labeled everything. All I did was trace the wires, wrote what they were, and then we're gonna, so these 5 wires will transfer over to this one, but then how do you get the other 5? We're gonna go over it. So I wrote, if I had a pin on the ECU, I wrote the pin. So this one right here is ignition firing. We're gonna go over to the paper and we're gonna go to IGF, which is right here. Igniter verification signal. This pin is used to detect if the ignition has taken place successfully. So that's your IGF. Now we're going to go to IGT. So now we've been using, to clean up the harness, we've been using the pinout for the GE. Now we're using the pinout for the GTE because this stuff doesn't exist on the GE ECU. So we're going to go to IGT1. That's what we saw. Ignition trigger cylinder number 1 front. Okay. So that's the trigger. So there's 6 of them because the way this ECU comes from the factory, instead of using wasted spark, one coil sharing 2 cylinders, each cylinder has their own specific coil. We're not going to run that. They're too expensive, they're hard to get, and it doesn't matter. We're not doing it. So each one has its own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. As you see the pin numbers, we got 57, 56, 55, 54, 53, and 52. So what I took the liberty of doing is putting them together. So cylinder 1 and 6 is pins 57, 52, and then 2 and 5 is 56, 53, 3 and 4 is 55, 54. So just keep that in mind. Now we're going to go back to the SC300 igniter. We got plus B, that's coil power. I noticed it shares power with the coil, the igniter, injectors 1 and 3. So that's a shared power, and it goes all the way back down to the main plug. Then we have right here, coil number 1, ground trigger. IGT number 1 goes to the ECU, pin 57, right? So cylinder 1, pin 57, and coil number 1 is out. So this is the in that goes into the igniter from the ECU, and this is the out that goes to the coil. This is for the tach right here. So this goes all the way back down. This is what you're going to hook up to your dash. Now let's get into this. I printed this out from the forum. It didn't make 100% sense, but I had to make it make sense. So basically, here's the SC300 igniter. Here's the new igniter, right? It only had 4 pins. It was missing one, so I just wrote it on there, C1, right? Coil 1. So that's what goes to the coil down there, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take what we have here and we're gonna cut them and splice them into here. So IGF can just transfer right on over, B can transfer right on over, tach can transfer right on over, ignition trigger 1 can go right on over, and coil 1 can go right on over. So this is what we're gonna do. All of them are not going to go right on over because we're going to get rid of that plug and we're only using these 3 plugs, right? If we wanted to, we could delume that plug and use it for the numbers 1 and 6, but we're not going to do that. We're going to redo all the wiring because these wires are in bad shape. So this is what's going to happen. As you can see, since there's 6 different pins for 6 different triggers for each coil, you have to bridge them together. So 1 and 6 are going to be bridged together. Number 2 and 5 are going to be bridged together. 3 and 4. So that's what I wrote right here. T1, T2, and T3. That's where these come in. T1, T2, T3. So as you can see right here on this one, I wrote T2 and the ECU pins. So that means pins 56 and 53 are going to go to this wire. Pins 57 and 52 are going to go to this wire. And pins 55 and 54 are going to go to this wire. So that's in from the ECU. Out going to the coils is right here. So we have C1 out, which is coil 1, C2 out, which is coil 2, C3 out is coil 3. So the C1, C2, C3 are going to the ground triggers on our coil packs. So simple enough. And then everything transfers right over. So that's where you go from 5 wires to 10 wires. So I'm going to go ahead and wire that all up, and we are going to be pretty much done, and we can wrap this harness up with tape. Now, a lot of talking, I know, but that's what we have to do to get this figured out. So luckily I did all the dirty work. All you guys gotta do is copy me and copy what I did. So if you want, I will hold the camera right here for a second so you could see everything that I have labeled. But if you're not completely sure, everything is labeled right here on the igniter. I just put it in tape to make it easier for you. On this igniter, everything is kind of on the back, but the words were not the same. So I just made the words the same as it was on the on this one. So I will hold the camera here and here because that one's kind of messed up. Tack. So there you guys go. I'm gonna go ahead and wire this up real quick. We're gonna show you pretty much the finished product. Okay, fast forward. I'm gonna go through this real quick, but we got the engine in the car. Harness is done for the most part. I still want to wrap this in some plastic stuff. So what I did here is I just put these P-clamps and I'm gonna share them with the intake bolts. That way they're not rubbing on anything. They're just gonna be floating there. Hopefully, you know, I'll monitor the heat, see if they get too hot, and we'll worry about more insulation. But what I did was I shoved it above the transmission, like in between the transmission and the firewall. So I was gonna put it up here, but it gets real hot up here, and plus the wiring was looking pretty cramped. The engine's pretty far back. I don't know, I just didn't want to risk, you know, messing anything up or having it look ugly. So that's what I did. I ran it down here and have it going up through here and into the car. Here's a few plugs that I have ready to roll. I just kind of guessed on all this and I actually did a pretty good job. So where I teed the coil packs was perfect. It's right in the middle. Where I teed this O2 out, I have my O2 sensor right here in my downpipe. It's kind of this is kind of long, so I just ran it, and I'm just gonna plug it in right here. The only thing is the sensor I bought. It is a 4-wire O2 sensor. Only problem is the plug is different. No problem. I got plenty of O2 sensors with plugs, so I just bought one from an IS300. There's the IS300 has 3 O2s. 2 of them plug directly right in. 1 of them don't. I happen to get the one that doesn't on accident. So we'll just put the right plug on there. No big deal. Then the map wire. So I got it right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the map and we're gonna maybe mount it up here, right here, like on the firewall or something like that, because we know we're gonna have our intake right here, and our what's it called, our map port is gonna come right out of the bottom of the intake and come around. So we're good on that. So yeah, the 3 major things to run the GTE ECU on the NA harness, we had to switch the harness up a lot. So we turn the MAF into a map. So out of the 5 wires that used to be the MAF, 3 of them are now the map. And then I have the IAT, so I'll show you to you in a second. And then, so the 3 major things is the 4-wire converting from single wire to 4-wire O2. We got the converting the MAF to MAP and IAT. And then we have the distributor converted to waste to spark coil on plug style coil packs. So now that brings us in here to all of our wiring. Here is our igniter for our coil packs and all that stuff. That one's ready to go. We have all of our body plugs right here. Right, they're a little sloppy right now because I didn't even get rid of the connectors yet. That's what I'm gonna do now. So this gray plug is the most important out of all of them. So I haven't swapped out around any wires yet. So if you look, this is how, if you're looking at pinouts, this is how you look at the plug. You look at it like this. Connector on top, right? Male side of the plug. And you look at it, top right is pin number 1. Top left is, in this case, pin number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then top right is number 6, and then it goes to the left. And then the right side, so it goes from right to left, top to bottom, basically. So we have all these. So this orange plug was mainly dash stuff. We got reverse on here, coolant temp, a few other things. Kind of hard to read all this right now. Then we got this. I wrote on all these with pen. I kind of messed up because it's all smearing now. That one says alternator. There's a couple alternate wires we're gonna need to land as well. And then right here, as you can see, I got the starter wire chilling right here. And then the ECU plugs. This one all goes to sensors and stuff on the engine. This one is the most important plug on the ECU. So this ran all the way through the harness out to the front. So the ECU got a lot of its power from ports in the engine bay. I cut all that off, and now I'm gonna get all of my powers and stuff from inside of the vehicle. So if you put all this to the side, right, that's all engine stuff. These two plugs right here are basically essentially your body plugs for the 4Runner. So what I did, I have both plugs here. I went through pinouts and I labeled everything. And this is what, so if we're looking at it like this, again, clip on top, looking at it from the back of the male side of the connector. So that white and black one is gonna be your top right pin number 1 plug. So right now, we're looking at the dark gray plug IH1 from the back like this. So we're gonna go over what I got so far. These are just what I've gotten from the internet. I'll go ahead and hold the camera on this so you can check out what I got. This is something else I printed out off the internet. Ow, I just burned myself on the freaking soldering iron. I forgot it was right there. So, oh my God, now I can smell my skin. That's disgusting. So then there's this. It shows you IH1, IH2, what everything is. So I'm kind of using this in conjunction with this. And then here is pretty much the entire harness, pretty much. So, fuck, I'm trying to get the sun out of there so I could. So what I did was, it was 3 separate pieces of paper. What I did was I cut them so they lined up perfectly, and I put tape on them. So now it's just one long piece of paper. So this is also how I'm confirming that all of these pins are what they are. So for example, if you go to IH1 pin 3, IH1 pin 3, that is going to be a purple wire, right? Purple wire. What does that say? CEL, that's check engine light. Number 5, brake switch. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to be the right side, the green and white. So we'll pull that one out. I don't have it labeled because I don't think I'm going to use the brake switch, but there is a pin on the ECU for brake switch, so I might use it. Pin number 10 is battery. So as you can see over here, pin number 10, battery. So basically what we did was we labeled everything in conjunction with these. So now all I got to do is like for like. So one of the most important ones is pin 22, starter relay out, which is this big boy right here all the way at the bottom. As you can see, I put start right there on that black and white one. So that's our starter relay. Our coil, injectors, and ignition, this big, thick black and red one. That one's probably the most important one. So we're gonna put pretty much a lot of the powers on there. The ignition power and the battery power and the plus B. The plus B goes to all the sensors and stuff like that. So we have all that right here. We got ignition power, plus B, starter relay. So we're gonna like for like all of that. So once we're done with that, I'm just gonna go ahead and solder everything. I'm gonna leave the wires kind of long in case I have an issue and I gotta cut them. If not, I'll just tape them up and we'll leave them right here in the kick panel, because this, I don't know if this is where the stock ECU went or not for the 4Runner. I don't know, it didn't come with one. But the most important thing that I was just learning right now, that I had to do a little bit of research on, was this circuit opening relay. The circuit opening relay relies on a negative trigger to get this relay to turn on. So if you look right here, there's a relay right here. So that's the open closing switch right there. Here's the coils, right? So these need power. So once this one sees a negative, it looks like a holding contact. That's what it looks like. So once this gets its negative, it will close the holding contact and it will stay on until the ignition is turned off, and then it will click off. So it took me a while to figure that out. That's what I was doing here. Where was it? Oh, I took the wire off. So it was right here. I put this green wire right here. It says circuit opening relay negative. So what I did was I just tied a piece of longer wire to this. I touched it to a negative, and I heard the circuit opening relay, which is right stashed in here somewhere. And then I heard that thing click on. So when the circuit opening relay clicks on, powers your fuel pump, and then the EFI main relay goes in, and that's how it gets power from its EFI switch. So this is kind of like insurance, I guess. I don't really know, but it's pointless to bypass it because it still works. I still have to drop the tank and change the pump. So we're gonna get some of this wiring done. As you see, I gave you all my sauce that took forever to freaking figure out. There's a lot of things in here that still aren't figured out. So all the stuff we need to do to get the engine running, we're gonna do first, because we want to make sure this engine's good. I bought an unknown engine. The guy said it ran. I'm not really sure, and we're just gonna go from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get soldering. We're gonna clean up a lot of those plugs in there. Out of the, let's just go over this, the 5 or 6 wires that I actually have connected, that should be enough for the engine to start, actually, because all you need is basically the powers, plug in the ECU, and that's it. She should start. So we got most of the powers. The rest of it's just creature comforts, AC. So pretty much the last thing that we have to connect is the battery wire. I'm just waiting because I'm looking up alternator wiring. I might have to break apart one of these connections to wire in the alternator. So the alternator is pretty simple. One of them's the sensing switch, which senses the voltage of the battery, and then one of them's for the dash, and another one is ignition power to know when the car is on, something like that. So what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna get the intake on. I've been waiting for this sensor in the mail, and I'm gonna be very gentle with it because it was $60. So basically with this setup, the forum that I've been reading says you could use a GM intake air temp sensor. So I wasn't completely sure, but I bought an intake air temp sensor right here. It's a Delphi style one for GM. It's got the same plug that's already on my harness. The only problem is it's a 3/8 fitting, and the only way I can get that in is to buy an aluminum bung and get it welded on my intercooler piping, which I don't have made yet. And I needed this kind of now, so I kind of came up with a temporary solution, even though it was kind of freaking expensive. But on the bottom of this intake manifold, I gotta be real careful because I already put in all the O-rings yesterday. I'll be real careful, I don't mess those up. But on the bottom of this freaking super sweet deep motor intake, there are fittings right here, right? I don't know what that size is, but I do know what the size of these are. These are 1/8 MPT, and I don't need all of those. I think I'm gonna need one for my boost source, one for my my brake booster, and then the other 2 are useless. So what I'm gonna do is I have an 1/8 NPT intake air temp sensor from Haltech. They say this is a Delphi sensor with, you know, a Deutsch connector on the end, just 1/8 NPT. So I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna put it in here. I hear that these can get heat soaked, and it's really not good to put your intake air temp sensor in there because they can get heat soaked as well. But we're gonna have to work a lot of this stuff out. But I bought it because it was easy to get. The only thing is it's 4 times the price of a regular Delphi sensor, but that's okay. Now we just have to wire in these Deutsch pins, which I do not have the proper crimper for. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But we're gonna get this in the intake. We're gonna get this pinned up. We're gonna get the intake on the 4runner, and yeah, that should be good enough to hopefully get a crank out of her. We got the starter wired up. Just this is temporary. I found an old alternator wire over here I was using, and I kind of made a mistake on using that. The gauge is just not thick enough, so it's got a really weak start. So what I did is I freaking just wired this sucker straight. So now I'm using both of them, and we're in pretty good shape. So I took the oil feed line off. We got it cranking, and I wanted to, it took me about a minute and a half of cranking, you know, on and off. You don't want to just hold it for a minute and a half to get oil pressure. Now we got oil pressure. Use this water bottle. I didn't want to flow through the turbo yet because I'm still working on the drain. As you can see, it is not looking too good down there. Basically, all I got to do is hook up one more wire, the battery wire. Oh, something's sparking. That's not good. Uh-oh. Okay, let's just find out what we sent 12 volts to. That's pin number 1. I don't know what it is. Pin number 1 is, oh, great, a ground. We were just grounding out shit right now. Hopefully we didn't. Idiot. Okay, let's get that over there. This is what happens when you guys do sketchy wiring. I didn't wrap. That's funny, it's the only thing I forgot to put heat shrink on, and it's a freaking ignition switched. And guess what's on the ignition? Told you guys, this circuit opening relay right here, it's a ground trigger, so if I ground it, you'll hear it click. Listen. Oh, it will only click if the ignition is on. Okay, ignition on. Wait for the ugly 4runner beeping to go away. You'll hear the click. Ready? So what that is doing, here is our circuit opening relay. This is the wire I'm touching right here, the green and yellow. As you see, it goes over to the what is this, the MAF sensor, the 3VZ MAF sensor, the original 4runner motor MAF sensor. So I think when the MAF gets energized or something, I don't really know how exactly it works, it closes this circuit and fires up the circuit opening relay and allows, check this out, boop, fuel pump. Okay, everything should be in just enough good of order to start it. Right here, you know, since I'm always dealing with drive-by-wire, it always adjusts the idle and the throttle blade for you. But now, yeah, it's all on me. So I got that there. Hopefully if it starts up. By the way, I got a new wire just for the alternator and starter because I was powering the whole car and the alternator and the starter off of this wire, and I didn't think that was a good idea. So now we got a big thick wire for just the starter. That way we don't draw so much power from this and it takes away from sparking fuel. So hopefully my theory is correct and this thing will start up. Hopefully. Let's see, baby, come on. Holy shit, holy shit. Oh, that's cool. Okay, let's see if we can get it to stay in the run. So I'm thinking it's not getting enough air for idle. So we're gonna bump this up a decent amount. We still haven't touched this yet either. So this thing's gonna do whatever it wants. This is our throttle position sensor. So this is also like adjusting the throttle body because it's sent. This is what tells your ECU how open your throttle is. So we're gonna start with it all the way. Let's see, we're gonna start with it all the way counterclockwise. And we got the throttle plate open a little bit. If it idles too high, we'll shut it off, adjust it, and we'll hit it again. All right, let's see. There you go, she's idling. Holy shit. That's freaking loud. Okay, but it runs. Holy shit. Totally forgot to put that cap on, so we gotta get that on. It's idling. I hear a weird noise from the motor. I hope that's not what I think it is. So we'll leave that there, we'll leave that there, and that's running good enough to adjust the timing. I gotta do a few more things and then I'll get back with you guys. Well guys, I hope that explains everything. I went into as much detail as I could without confusing people. You know, if you're gonna do this, I suggest you go on the forum, look up NATTT mod. It's on the SC300 forums, on the super forums. There's a guy, he's the I don't know, the main guy of the post. His name is Ali SC3. A lot of good information on there. There's thousands of comments on the thread. I went through almost all of them. I was able to figure everything out without having to ask anybody for help. So if you're doing this, I advise you to do the same. Obviously this video is going to get you at least 75% of the way there. If you're good with wiring, this video will get you 100% the way there. As for now, it's good enough to start the car. Obviously we can't drive it yet, but I would say we're pretty successful on that. We converted a lot of wiring, and I was a little worried at times because when I rewrapped the ECU, like some wires are too long, too short. I had to extend the TPS wires. I had to extend. I didn't put that on the video. I had to extend it like almost a foot. That way the wires didn't just fly across like a freaking shitty path. It follows the harness and then it branches off and goes in. But stuff like that. There's one more thing that I did not go over in the video. I used the GE TPS. It did work, but it didn't work right. So if you have the GT ECU, I used the GTE TPS, but if you do that, you gotta flop the 4 wires backwards because, long story short, they're backwards. As you can see right here on this GE throttle body, the TPS, yes, they're on the same side, but if you look, the throttle goes forward and on the GTE it goes backwards. So that's why you need to flip the wires. If you're using this, this whole intake, then you can leave the wiring exactly how it is and it will work. But since I used an aftermarket intake manifold, I had to kind of figure that out the hard way. So I'm using a GTE TPS and I flipped the 4 wires completely backwards. So now the car runs great, revs great. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. But I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I know it was a lot of information to go over and I tried to explain it the best I can. I'm trying not to be all over the place in my videos. Each video is a specific task. So in the next video we're going to get pretty much, even though it's running, we're going to get all the plumbing done and stuff like that and basically get it ready to drive. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I, Trainer Guards from Solid Modified, I'm out. Peace.